on the Air Force Reserve proudly presents Ed Hamill and Living the Dream. A musical journey through time, celebrating a century of aerobatic life. Direct your attention to show center as Ed flies the Air Force Reserve biplane, transporting us back into time to the graceful daredevil flying of the 1920s and 30s.
Obviously, practice is key. You know, I practice about 2 to 4 times a day for whatever air show I'm going to fly. Overwater shows are especially interesting because you do sometimes lack the ground references that we have if you're flying over a runway, especially if it's smooth, the water's smooth. It depends on how the show box is marked over the water and the environmental conditions that we had on the first day, which were a little bit tough. But you have other considerations. I wear a life preserver unit, an inflatable vest. It's not inflated all the time, so it's pretty comfortable to wear, but I wear one of those every time I do one of these shows, even though most of the shows, especially this one, I know had vessels and people in boats, and if there was an accident, they'd be right there with you. But to practice, it's tough. You need to go out and practice over water. You got to practice over the real thing to prepare yourself for an overwater show. Yeah, my grandfather flew in the military, and so my whole family was exposed to aviation at a young age. I always knew since I was a little kid that I wanted to be a pilot. But honest truth, it was going to the Chicago Air and Water Show, 14 years old, that I looked up and saw a fighter jet fly by, and that was it. I looked at my dad and said, I know last week I wanted to be a lawyer, and the week before that I wanted to be a fireman, and then a doctor, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I said, I want to be a fighter pilot. And so I set off on my journey to become a fighter pilot. But it was also an air show that inspired me to do that. So I knew that one day, hopefully, I'd come full circle and be flying air shows, and here I am.
Cirrus Design's Vision SJ50 single-engine personal jet offers exceptional fuel efficiency, flexible seating for up to 7, advanced avionics, and all the Cirrus safety features you expect, including the Cirrus airframe parachute system. With its detailed design, the Cirrus Vision is technologically advanced, yet engineered to be simple to fly, to allow owner pilots more lifestyle pursuits than any other personal aircraft. Learn more about the Vision SJ50 at cirrusdesign.com.
Well, you know, I started off at 16 my private pilot's license, getting that and all the training. 17, I got my private. And it's a general aviation airport that keeps aviation alive in this country, period. I mean, it's awesome. And so I started out in general aviation. And then I went through Air Force ROTC and went into the Air Force. And then I was fortunate enough to finish well enough in my pilot training class to get an F-16. So I've got about 18 years of flying F-16s, and I still currently instruct in F-16s part-time in the Air Force Reserve at Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix. But as a civilian, I fly air shows in the Air Force Reserve biplane, which is actually a Pitts Special S2C, factory built, but with a lot of modifications that we've done to it. So we've got new Steve Wolf wings on it this year. Every time you look at them, it's like Picasso. You want to just put it up on the wall and look at it. We've got Lycon modified Lycoming engine, and it is a fire-breathing air show machine. It's a muscle biplane for sure. And it's really helped me to take my show. This is really the year that my show is unique as it is with how I tell a story, and it's choreographed with period music. But this year, with the new wings, with the horsepower that I have, I'm really able to let my flying kind of blossom this year. When I got in this business, I had zero aerobatic flying at all. So I looked up an air show pilot who I still think today is the best in the business. And after a few months of begging, he took me under his wing. So we had about a 7-year real close mentorship. And it was a few years ago where he finally kicked me out of the nest and said, "You're on your own, kid. You know, it's enough. I can't do any more." But I treat it as a business first. And a few years back when I got in the Air Force Reserve out of active duty, I had already been flying some air shows and looking for a sponsor. So I approached Air Force Reserve headquarters and pitched them with this idea. I thought it was a perfect fit, perfect match. I'm already doing shows, and I can go out and I can get to some venues that some of the single ship demos and the Thunderbirds can't get to. But just in general, I can reach, sometimes I can reach people where others can't. So my booth visits are a big part of my program, and talking with kids, face to face with these kids. And here we are, 6 years later. This is our 6th year with the Air Force Reserve as our title sponsor. And I'm fortunate to have a sponsorship that allows me to run it the way I was taught to run it by my mentor. And so I arrive at each show site on Tuesday, and Wednesday is typically my practice day. I might do some media if I can, but it's primarily to go up and fly and get used to how the air is, how the environmental conditions are at that particular location, and start building the muscle memory, because it's all about muscle memory. And then I've got the muscle memory built on Wednesday, and Thursday I'll do some media, and I'll do some more flying and practicing, and Friday we'll have rehearsal day. And by the time Saturday rolls around, if I'm having to think at all about pull softer because the density altitude is higher, then I'm not sure if I'm ready to dive into the show box in front of the people, because it's never fail. When you dive in on that Saturday or the first day of a show, you're going to pull some more G's than when you're practicing, because you're excited. You're looking down at thousands and thousands of people, and you want to do a good job, and it's exciting.
You've heard of this thing called WAAS, right? The Wide Area Augmentation System lets you fly GPS glide path approaches without relying on ground-based landing aids. No VOR, no ILS, no problem. Fact is, WAAS is so smart, it even knows what you're going to say next time you need it. And don't have it on board. Wah, wah, I want my WAAS now! I was really crying there for a second.
Look up and watch as Ed begins the dance.
If you look at the industry, Sean is real big on industry. There's a few guidelines that I've learned, and it's from learning from him. Anytime I do something, I ask myself, number one, is it safe? Number two, is it good for the industry? And number three, should I do it? And the first two answer the third. And everything's about industry with Sean. And if you look at programs like Stars of Tomorrow, I kind of think, and I know that I was the prototype for Stars of Tomorrow, because he brought me to Oshkosh the year before he started Stars of Tomorrow, because he wanted to prove that he could bring a relatively new pilot into a venue like Oshkosh, and you could safely perform and be a new pilot, because he's real big on bringing up new people and perpetuating the values that he holds true to this industry. My priorities on my team are safety first. Safety, and then if it's entertaining at the end of the day and I get great comments, then that's bonus. That's the way I look at it. Like I had mentioned earlier, I run a business. I run a marketing business. I happen to use an airplane to achieve that marketing goal. And that will get you your first year or two of sponsorship. But what gets you past that, and what gets you so you're here 30 years from now still flying shows, is that safety has to always be the #1 priority.